Ladies and gentlemen, honored guests, Reverend Father, my name is Richard Barrett, and I am the Artistic Director of the St. John of Damascus Society. And I thank you all very much for being here this evening. First off, I really must thank First Christian Church, and especially Evelyn Nelson, their Executive Administrator, for working with us and being so generous in letting us use this wonderful sanctuary. I invite you to help us respect the space in terms of being able to leave it how we found it. They have to use it for services in the morning, and I want them to think of us as having been good guests. I also very much need to thank the Society's Executive Board. They have all worked tirelessly in getting this project off the ground, and we would have been dead in the water without the contributions of each and every one of them. If the board members could stand, please. Yes. I'd like to bring a few things to your attention before we get started. You may have seen this as you walked in, but I will point out that there is a CD table in the entrance hall, and we have available CDs that are either recordings of our composers' compositions or of the repertoire in which they specialize. You will have a chance to browse the CD table at the intermission and at the end, and we can take, I promise, any whatever form of payment is convenient for you. Thank you, Square and PayPal. I will say, just logistically speaking, we do have audio and video equipment running right over there on tripods, and then we have two free-floating handy cams. So we're recording this for posterity, as well as for the benefit of people who couldn't be here tonight, so please be aware of where these things are located. The last thing I'll say before making my official opening remarks is this. If at the end of the evening you are intrigued by the St. John of Damascus Society, our mission, and our activities, and you want to find out more, and maybe you're interested in supporting what we're doing, we have tried to make it as easy as possible for you to do so. First, you can talk to me or any one of our board members in person. We will be around and accessible tonight, and we would love to chat. Second, you can visit our website, www.johnofdamascus.org, and on the website there's a contact form you can fill out. Third, in your program, there are envelopes doubling as information forms. Or are the information forms doubling as envelopes? In any event, if you fill one of these out and give it to us, to me or one of our board members, we will make sure that we stay in touch with you. I will say that we are indeed a nonprofit organization with federal tax exemption, so anything you might put in this envelope is tax deductible to the extent allowed by law, and you can even designate on the front what it is you want your gift to be used for, if there's something specific you hear about that we're doing that really strikes your fancy. All right, so I think that's enough housekeeping. On to the important stuff. Apropos of our title, Networks of Echoes, there is a complex web of threads to tie together for this evening. You all join us in medias res, in the middle of the action, as it were. Tonight we are all flies on the wall during a moment in a working process that has been up to this point and will continue to be collaborative. The 6 composers who are here tonight have already been hard at work for a couple of days, hammering out how the distinct musical traditions of disparate places, languages, and peoples that are nonetheless united by a common religious tradition can themselves be united by a shared text. We see 6 individuals that are collaborating, but each of these 6 individuals is having to collaborate on a basis of representing a specific musical tradition bigger than himself. And that specific musical tradition is itself part of a bigger unified whole. Another way we might put it is that this working process is creative, but it is creative in the context of fidelity. It is about individual composers being faithful to a particular musical tradition in a way that allows everybody to be faithful to their own particular musical traditions while still coming up with something that is cohesive and unified. It might sound like what I am describing is dichotomy, conflict, disagreement, struggle between the particular and the general, between local and universal, or between individual and individual. To the extent that we're talking about music, however, and therefore sound, I'd like to talk about what we're doing more in terms of echo and antiphony. One of our composers, Alexander Khalil, whose dissertation, Echoes of Constantinople, Oral and Written Tradition of the Psaltis of the Ecumenical Patriarchate of Constantinople, provided the germ of the idea for tonight's title, Networks of Echoes. And he says this about echoes in his dissertation, quote, "The word echo is a familiar one. Echoes as acoustic phenomena involving the reflection of sound waves are a part of everyday human existence. I invite the reader, in this case the audience, to consider the word echoes as significant of resonances. The status of these resonances as echoes is contingent upon two factors, location and time. Echoes can be considered as accumulated resonations over time in a specific location. Echoes can only exist in a space that will contain and reflect them. Thus, they are born of and shaped by the space in which they resound. I suggest that the term echoes can also be applied to resonances that last much longer, resonances that move through human beings. These resonances consist of memories that are manifest in voice and action. The space through which these memories resonate, however, is larger than the individual. Rather, it is the community of which each individual is a part. I am not concerned with analysis of fragments of tradition in hopes of extrapolating past contexts. Rather, the intention is to examine echoes of a still living tradition in context." End quote. What we're exploring here, then, is how each musical tradition, with its own echoes, might resonate with the others, and how each might do so creatively as a living tradition. In this act of creative collaboration, the disparate communities that each composer's musical tradition represents form a larger community, one that hopefully can represent a faithful unity in diversity without becoming a hodgepodge. Antiphony is similar in ways to the idea of an echo. The word antiphon means literally against the voice, and is used to mean sounding in response, answer. Where symphony is sounding together, antiphony suggests a call and response, a dialogue. Orthodox liturgy is antiphonal. The fullness of the worship practice involves two choirs singing back and forth to each other, but also in dialogue with the celebrant and the congregation, and on a theological level, in dialogue with the eternal worship in heaven. Antiphony, then, dialogue, is descriptive of what we're doing here. It's happening on levels beyond simply a musical one, too. This weekend is part of a bigger effort that we're calling, for now, the Psalm 103 Project, which involves the setting of a text from the Judeo-Christian tradition. But this project that involves a religious text was inspired by a scientific achievement, last summer's discovery of the Higgs boson, the subject of the Nobel Prize in Physics just earlier this week. So there is dialogue here, too, dialogue between what our society has posed as the poles of science and faith. Even within the Psalm 103 project itself, there is dialogue. It's intended to be a multimedia project involving, in its final phase, a documentary that will make use of the music our composers will produce, juxtaposing the sung text about the many levels of the created order with images from the entirety of the cosmos, from the vastness of space to subatomic particles. Science and religion have been in dialogue in the genesis of this project, and sight and sound will function antiphonally in this project's final flourishing. So, for the first part of this evening, each composer will speak briefly and informally on how they see their work fitting into this tapestry. and they will have live musical examples as part of what they're talking about. For the second part, they will talk as a group about the issues that have been raised over the course of the evening, and they will also answer your questions. What I hope you will see emerging is a mosaic of musical traditions, each piece fascinating and beautiful in its own right, contributing to a greater whole.